The ceramic cup shattered against the marble floor, sending sharp fragments skittering across the café. Every conversation stopped. Every head turned. The tall Korean man stood frozen in the doorway, his expensive black coat still dripping from the rain outside, his scarred knuckles white as he gripped the door frame. And the boy who had never spoken a single word in his 7 years of life, screamed again. "Father." His small body trembled as he pointed at the stranger, tears streaming down his brown cheeks. His mother's tray crashed to the ground, dishes exploding in a symphony of breaking porcelain. She stumbled backward, her hand covering her mouth, her eyes wide with something between terror and recognition. The man's cold expression cracked. His jaw went slack. He stared at the child as if seeing a ghost, his dark eyes moving from the boy's face to the woman standing behind him. Blood drained from his features. "No," he whispered in Korean. "It can't be." How could a child who never spoke recognize a man he'd never met? How could he call him father? The answer began 3 days earlier. Rain drummed against the window of their tiny apartment above the laundromat on 81's back streets. Ji-sun wiped down the counter of the small cafe where she'd worked double shifts for the past 6 years, her lower back aching, her feet swollen in her worn sneakers. The clock read 11:47 p.m. "Mama," her son signed, his small hands forming the familiar gestures they'd created together. "Tired. Home." She smiled despite her exhaustion, switching to their sign language. "Soon, baby." "Just finishing." Miho sat at his usual corner table, his colored pencils spread across the surface, drawing with the intense concentration that made her heart swell and break simultaneously. At 7 years old, he was small for his age, his mixed features, her deep brown skin, and those unmistakably Korean eyes, drawing stares wherever they went. But it was his silence that drew the whispers. The doctors had found nothing wrong with his vocal cords, his hearing, his brain. He simply didn't speak. Had never spoken. Not even as a baby. "What are you drawing, love?" she signed when she finally locked the cafe door. He held up the sketch. The same one he'd been drawing for weeks now. A tall man with sharp features, broad shoulders, a jagged scar running down his neck. Ji-sun's blood went cold. She'd never told him. Never shown him photographs. She'd burned them all years ago. "Where did you see this man?" she signed, trying to keep her hands steady. Miho touched his temple, then his heart. Dreams. Feelings. That night, she held him tighter than usual in their narrow bed, listening to the sounds of Seoul outside their window. Somewhere in this city of 10 million souls, the man she loved and lost was still alive. Still dangerous. Still the reason she looked over her shoulder every single day. 7 years and 4 months earlier, Seoul had been different for Ji-sun. She'd arrived from Nairobi on a student visa, her acceptance to Yonsei University clutched in her hands like a golden ticket. Her parents had scraped together everything for her education, their brilliant daughter who would become a doctor. The racism had hit her like a physical wall. The stares on the subway. The women clutching their purses when she passed. The shop owners who followed her around their stores. But she'd survived, studying hard, keeping her head down. Until she met Han Jae-wook at a street food stall near campus. She'd been counting coins for tteokbokki when a wallet appeared beside her. "Allow me," he'd said in English, his accent thick but charming. "No one should study on an empty stomach." "I can pay for my own food," she'd replied, but she'd smiled. "I know you can." His grin was devastating. "But then I'd miss the chance to know your name." He was a year older, supposedly studying business. Tall and handsome with those intense eyes and that confident swagger that made other students part like water when he walked through campus. He was kind to elderly shopkeepers, teaching her Korean phrases that made them laugh. He bought books for children in the neighborhood. He protected her from drunk men who got too close, from racist comments muttered behind hands. They fell in love in small moments. Him teaching her to make kimchi in his tiny apartment kitchen, laughing when she added too much pepper. her teaching him Swahili phrases, whispering them against his skin. Walking along the Han River at sunset, his jacket around her shoulders, planning impossible futures. "I'll give you everything," he'd promised one night, his forehead pressed to hers. A house with a garden. Children. Safety. Love. Everything. "I just want you," she'd whispered back. "Just you, Jaewook. That's everything." But she'd noticed things. The phone calls he'd taken, hushed voices, stepping away. The expensive watch that appeared on his wrist. The way certain men bowed to him on the street with fear, not respect. The nights he came back with bruised knuckles. "What do you really do?" she'd asked one evening. "I protect people," he'd said. Not quite a lie. Not quite the truth. The attack came on a Wednesday. Ji-sun had been walking to his apartment when she'd seen the blood first, a trail of it leading to an alley. She'd found him slumped against a wall, 3 men standing over him with knives. She'd screamed. The men had run. She'd cradled his head, sobbing, calling for help in broken Korean. In the hospital, he'd squeezed her hand. "You have to leave, Seoul. Tonight." "What?" "No, I'm not leaving you. They'll come for you to get to me." "I can't." His voice cracked. "I love you too much to let you die for my sins." "What sins?" "Jaewook, what's happening?" But he'd turned his face away. "Go back to Kenya. Forget me. Live." "I won't." "Please." He'd looked at her then, and she'd seen it. The finality. The closed door. "If you love me, go. Stay away. I'm dead to you now." She'd left the hospital in shock. Returned to her apartment to find it ransacked, a message spray-painted on her wall in red, "Leave or join him in hell." She'd packed that night. But at the airport, in the bathroom, she'd collapsed with the worst nausea of her life. The pregnancy test she'd bought from a convenience store had shown 2 lines. In the following weeks, she'd learned the truth from a sympathetic police officer who'd known her situation. Han Jae-wook wasn't a business student. He was the youngest enforcer in the Jade Dragon Syndicate, one of Seoul's most feared criminal organizations. After the attack, he'd gone deeper underground, eventually rising to become one of their most powerful leaders. He'd disappeared completely, changed his name, became a ghost. And she'd made a choice. She wouldn't bring a child into his violent world. She'd stay in Seoul. Where else could she go? But she'd hide. She'd changed her name too, moved to different districts, took jobs where she could stay invisible. She'd given birth alone in a public hospital, holding Miho for the first time with tears of joy and grief. He had Jaewook's eyes, his nose, his stubborn chin. "You'll never know him," she'd whispered to her newborn son. "But God, I wish you could." 2 days before the café incident, rumors started spreading through Itaewon. A high-ranking syndicate leader was in the neighborhood. The Phantom, they called him. A man who hadn't been seen in public for years. Ji-sun's hands shook as she served coffee. It couldn't be. Seoul was huge. The chances were. Miho's drawings became more frantic, more detailed. He drew the scar. The exact pattern of it. How could he know? Hit that like button if you're hooked on this story, and drop a comment telling us what you think will happen next. The night before it happened, Miho woke up screaming, no sound, but his mouth open, his body convulsing. Ji-sun held him, rocking him, singing softly. When he calmed, he signed something he'd never expressed before. Danger. Father. Coming. She didn't sleep. She held her boy and watched the window, memories crashing over her like waves. When Jaewook walked into the cafe that rainy night, Ji-sun knew him instantly despite the years. He was broader now, harder, his face carved into something colder. The scar she'd never seen before ran from his jawline down his neck. He wore power like a second skin. He was meeting someone, she realized. A business meeting. His eyes swept the cafe with professional assessment, looking for exits, threats, weaknesses. And then Miho stood up from his corner table. The boy's whole body was shaking. His mouth opened. Ji-sun moved toward him, terrified, not understanding. Father. The word tore from him like something that had been trapped for 7 years. Raw. Desperate. Certain. The cup fell. The cafe went silent. Jae-wook stared at the boy. At his face. At the birthmark on his neck, the same one Jae-wook had, shaped like a crescent moon. Then his eyes found Ji-sun's. Everything between them collapsed and rebuilt in that single glance. Love. Grief. Accusation. Understanding. 7 years of silence speaking louder than words. Ji-sun, he breathed. Miho ran to him. This stranger he'd never met. Wrapped his small arms around Jae-wook's legs. Looked up with tears streaming down his face. Don't leave, he said, his voice rough from disuse. Don't leave again. Jae-wook dropped to his knees. His hands hovered over the boy's head, shaking. I didn't know. I didn't know. You left us. Ji-sun's voice cracked across the cafe. Years of pain pouring out. You chose that life. You chose violence and blood, and I chose to keep you alive. He stood, his eyes fierce. They would have killed you. Both of you, if I'd known God, if I'd known I had a son. Don't hurt my mom. Miho's voice, small but clear, cut through their argument. Please. I don't understand. But don't hurt her. Jae-wook's face crumpled. He looked at this child, his child, and something in him broke visibly. I could never. Never. The door burst open. 3 men in dark suits. Guns visible under their jackets. Sir, one of them said in Korean. We need to leave. Now. Your position is compromised. Jae-wook's expression shifted instantly back to ice. Get them out, he ordered, pointing at Ji-sun and Miho. Safe house. Alpha Protocol. I'm not going anywhere with you. Ji-sun grabbed Miho's hand. Mama. Miho pulled against her, his voice gaining strength. Bad men. Outside. Watching. I see them. In my dreams. They want to hurt us. The window exploded inward. Glass rained across the cafe. Screams erupted. Someone was shooting from the street. Jae-wook grabbed them both, pulling them down behind the counter as bullets punched through the espresso machine. His body covered theirs, solid and warm and terrifyingly familiar. Southwest exit, he barked to his men. Kill anyone who follows. I can't, I won't let him see this violence, Ji-sun was sobbing. Then close his eyes. Jae-wook pulled a gun from his jacket. Because they're here to kill you both to hurt me, and I will burn this entire city down before I let that happen. He moved with lethal efficiency, his men creating a barrier as they rushed them out the back door. Cars screeched in the alley. More gunfire. Miho buried his face in his mother's chest, but his voice kept coming, words tumbling out like a dam had broken. Don't die, father. Please don't die. I just found you. Don't die. I won't, Jae-wook promised, even as he returned fire. I swear to you I won't. The safe house was a luxury apartment in Gangnam, so different from their tiny room it felt like another world. Ji-sun paced while Jae-wook's men stood guard outside. Miho sat on the leather couch, talking nonstop now, 7 years of words flowing out. I saw you every night in my dreams. Fighting. Protecting people. Sad. So sad. I wanted to tell Mama, but I couldn't make sounds. Why couldn't I make sounds? Jae-wook knelt before him, this deadly man reduced to trembling hands and wet eyes. I don't know. But you're speaking now. You're here. You're real. Why did you leave us? The question hit like a bullet. Jae-wook looked up at Ji-sun, who stood with her arms wrapped around herself, her face torn between fury and heartbreak. I didn't know about you, he said to Miho, but his eyes never left Ji-sun's. Your mother and I, we loved each other very much. But I was in a dangerous life. Bad people wanted to hurt me, which meant they'd hurt anyone I loved. So I sent her away to protect her. I didn't know she was carrying you. If I had known. You'd what? Ji-sun's voice was bitter. Given up your empire? Your power? Your precious syndicate? Yes. The word was simple. Final. Without hesitation. Yes. She laughed, but it was broken. You're lying. I'm not. He stood, approaching her carefully, like she was the dangerous one. Everything I built was to fill the hole you left. Power. Money. Fear. None of it mattered. None of it filled the space where you were supposed to be. Don't. She held up a hand. Don't make this romantic. You chose this. You could have left that life. You could have found me. You chose not to. I chose to keep you alive. His control cracked. They had a kill order on you. My own organization wanted you dead because they thought you made me weak. I made myself into someone so terrifying that no one would dare touch what was mine, but only if what was mine was hidden. If they knew about him, he gestured to Miho. They'd never stop hunting you. And now? She wrapped her arms tighter. Now they know. What happens now? Jae-wook's jaw set. Now I end it. All of it. Over the next 2 days, Ji-sun watched this man she still loved, God help her, dismantle his own empire. He made calls in rapid Korean, his voice cold and commanding. He met with police. With prosecutors. With rival syndicates. I'm giving them everything, he told her on the second night, after Miho finally fell asleep. Names. Accounts. Evidence. Everything that will put my entire organization away for life. They'll kill you for that. Probably. He smiled, but it was sad. But they can't touch you if I cooperate with the police. Witness protection. New identities. Safety. For both of you. Why? Tears streamed down her face. Why now? Why not years ago? Because I was a coward. He reached out, hesitated, then gently wiped her tears with his thumb. I was so afraid of being weak that I lost the only thing that ever made me strong. You. Us. The family we could have been. She leaned into his touch despite herself. I hate you. I know. I love you. I know that too. He pulled her close, and she let him, breathing in his scent, feeling his heartbeat against her cheek. I never stopped. Not for 1 second. They held each other while the city lights glittered outside, knowing it couldn't last. The attack came at dawn. 12 men. Armed with military-grade weapons. They'd found the safe house. Jae-wook's people fought back, but they were outnumbered. Ji-sun grabbed Miho, running for the panic room Jae-wook had shown her, but a man cut them off in the hallway. He raised his gun. Jae-wook appeared like a shadow, slamming into the attacker. They fought with brutal efficiency, hand to hand, deadly. Ji-sun covered Miho's eyes, but the boy pushed her hands away. I need to see, Miho said, his voice steady now. I need to remember. So I know what father gave up for us. Jae-wook won the fight. Barely. Blood ran from a cut above his eye. More attackers were coming. He shoved Ji-sun and Miho into the panic room. Lock it. Don't open it for anyone but the police. You're coming with us. I can't. He cupped her face. Kissed her. Deep and desperate and final. I love you. I love him. That's all that matters now. Father, no. Miho grabbed his hand. Come with us. Please. Jae-wook knelt, pulling his son into a fierce embrace. Be strong. Take care of your mother. And remember, speaking up, using your voice, that's the bravest thing anyone can do. You found your voice to save us. Don't ever lose it again. He kissed Miho's forehead. Then he was gone, the steel door sealing them inside. They heard gunfire for what felt like hours, but was probably minutes. Then sirens. Then silence. The courtroom was packed 3 months later. Ji-sun sat in the gallery with Miho, watching Jae-wook give testimony that would dismantle one of Seoul's largest criminal organizations. He looked different in a plain suit, without the expensive clothes and aura of danger. Smaller. More human. He was sentenced to 8 years with the possibility of parole in 4 for cooperation. As they led him away, he looked back once. Found his son in the crowd. Miho stood up. I'll wait for you, he called out, his clear voice carrying through the courtroom. I'll wait, father. Jae-wook's composure broke. He smiled through tears. I'll come home. I promise. Subscribe now so you don't miss what happens next in this family's incredible journey. For years and 2 months later, Ji-sun stood in the arrivals area of Seoul's prison release center. She'd opened a small café with the compensation money from the police, her own place, her own rules. Miho was beside her, 11 now, tall and confident, still drawing, but also talking constantly, making up for lost time. "Do you think he'll recognize us?" Miho asked, nervous. "Baby, we visited him every month for 4 years. I know, but..." There. She saw him. Older. Grayer. Thinner. But his eyes were the same. They found her instantly in the crowd. He walked toward them slowly, like he couldn't believe they were real. Like they might disappear. Miho ran to him. Jae-wook caught him, lifting him up despite his size, burying his face in his son's shoulder. "Welcome home, Dad," Miho whispered. Ji-sun approached, uncertain. For years of prison visits weren't the same as this. This was real. This was choosing to let him back into their lives, into their small apartment above the cafe, into their ordinary, beautiful, hard-won peace. "I don't know how to do this," Jae-wook said to her, his voice rough. "The normal life. The being a father and whatever you'll let me be to you. I don't know how." She took his hand, kissed his scarred knuckles. "Then we'll learn together." He pulled her close with his free arm, his other still holding their son. They stood there in the prison parking lot, this impossible family, holding each other as Seoul bustled around them. "I'm going to mess this up," he warned. "Probably," she agreed. "I'm going to have nightmares. Struggle. Fail. We all will. But I'm here. I'm yours. Both of you. For as long as you'll have me." Miho pulled back, looking at both his parents. "Can we go home now? I want to show Father the drawings I made. All the ones from the visits weren't enough. I have so many more at home." "Yes," Ji-sun said, her heart full to breaking. "Let's go home." They walked to her old car, Jae-wook marveling at the ordinary miracle of it. Holding his son's hand. Walking beside the woman he loved. Free. Alive. Home. It wasn't the future he'd promised her that night by the Han River 7 years ago. It was smaller. Harder. More uncertain. But it was real. And it was theirs. And sometimes, the truest love stories aren't about grand gestures or perfect endings. They're about choosing each other. Again and again. Even when, especially when, it's hard. If this story moved you, like this video, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe to our channel for more powerful true stories of love, redemption, and second chances. Your support means everything to us.